Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison, and I want to welcome you to day 209 of Humanity Rising. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you took note and celebrated the equinox on Saturday. I hope you felt the equilibrium of the light and dark dimensions as the world spins on its axis and orbits around the sun. And for just a split second, in the north and in the south, the light and dark are in perfect balance. Let us begin today, as we always do, with a heart coherence meditation as we seek to bring our own bodily, emotional, psychological systems into balance. One of the most effective ways of doing that is simply to take a moment every day, center yourself in your bodies, close your eyes, and listen to your heartbeat. Place your attention on your heart. And in a spirit of thanksgiving and deep gratitude, be aware that you're alive at this precious moment, this delicate moment in the human journey. Thank you, everyone. And now, with an open heart, with a heart full of gratitude for each and every one of you who have joined our session today, I want to take our attention to the east, to India, to the Annapurna mountain range in central Nepal. For those of you who've been to Nepal and have trekked in the mountains in that beautiful, pristine country, many of you have done the Annapurna trek. Annapurna is one of the most beautiful of the mountain ranges in the Himalayan range. We want to present the Annapurna Pluriversities. Annapurna symbolizes the goddess of fertility, the goddess of regeneration, the goddess of grain, the goddess of fertility in all kinds of ways. And pluriversities takes university and multiversities to its next level of understanding that fertility infuses all aspects of our life, not just one aspect or another aspect in different sectors of society or the different aspects of our humanness, but the fertility, the regenerativity of every aspect of humanity as it interacts and interlocks with all parts of the ecosystem. To lead our discussion, I'm very honored to be able to introduce Professor Parajuli, who is the founder and executive director of the Annapurna Pluriversities. He's a professor. He's written a book on religion and sustainable agriculture, studying the deep interrelationship between humanity and the larger ecosystem. He's brought together our panel for today. So Pramod, very honored to introduce you, and the program is now yours. Welcome.
Thank you, Jim. You have been an inspiration. I have been watching you probably since May 22nd, and you have not cut your hair, right? So that in itself shows such a dedication to, you are basically staying there to bring humanity to absorb this, what I call the climate coronaviruses combined disruption, very heavy duty. But even at this moment, that the Homo sapien humanity is so resilient that we are trying to figure out what next to do. So I am very, on behalf of Annapurna Pluriversities, several network in the Himalayas, in the Andes, in other parts. In North America, we have 3 bioregions now. Looks like the Rio Arriba, Santa Fe, and Hopi Land and other Pueblo areas. Wisconsin Great Lakes, we will hear from Mike April about that area, and then Northern California, Southern Oregon. So we're trying to create a bioregional regenerative process within and with inspiration from the Annapurna. So if you could put my Google Doc, Richard or Matt, whoever. Oh, Mike, you are there. So could you put the Google Doc?
I am here. Do you want me to share it right now?
Yes. Mike
okay,
is
I am in class still, but I can share until they're done.
He's from Wisconsin, and he's starting the Great Lakes bioregional process.
I gotta make sure I find the right one.
Yes, that sounds like it, Mike. Yes. Okay. So I think going through the slide would be probably more systematic. Basically, we still have to change the first Pluriversities. Annapurna Pluriversities is named for this particular window to regeneration in a bioregional framework. So we can go to the next one if you want. Mike? Yes. So let me explain how this particular coinage of Annapurna Pluriversities came about, and with a new vigor after the COVID. And when I begin to look at the phenomena of COVID, I could not isolate it from the climate disruption that has been happening for last 30, 40 years. So I thought there would be an advantage to look at this as a combined climate coronaviruses disruptions, and I call them CCC with a small s. If we look at it that way, we probably will go to the better framework for curricular regenerative design, both content and process. So at this point, we can already see that the option for humanity is, I call, either we go towards the Homo Earthlings, and I call them Gaia-graphers, following Bruno Latour, through something like Annapurna Pluriversities process that we will describe today and on April 21 session. Thank you, Jim, for giving us twice. Or there is already, we can see that the Homo Deus, that Harari talks Homo Deus or Homo Omnis, who are trying to terraform the earth, create other earth, go to another reality with the AI and Singularity University. So the coinage of Annapurna Pluriversities is an answer to two dominant myths of our time. The one is that the economic of scarcity and inequality, that it has to be extractive, unequal, and scarce, right? The Chicago School, we want to challenge that by invoking Annapurna goddess as abundance, a creation of abundance shared by all and regenerating all the time by all species, not only the human. So let's see how far we can go beyond the Chicago School of scarcity, inequality, and mass extraction. The other one is the Singularity University, which I do not know how Ubiquity University will put itself, Jim, on the continuum between the singularity to pluriversity. We will chat about that. The idea then is that if we were to bring all other fellow species, pluri-species, is the fellow regenerators, knowers, learners, and doers, and designers, and dreamers, which we will talk a lot later on, it will not be a singularity. It will also go beyond university, the Germanic idea. Also the multiversity, the climate that I went to Stanford and did a lot of multicultural and divestment from South African. I was one of the leaders at Stanford University, that is 1983 to 85. I think for regenerating the life within this, during the CCCs, we need completely pluriversity framework. So, or is there going to be a hybrid? Because by the Zoom session now, we are also experiencing that we can actually communicate this way also. So there might be hybrid. It will be nice conversation. So next, Mike. So the idea of Annapurna Pluriversity, not in the same coinage, started 60 years ago. I was probably 4 or 5 years old. You see, this is my house. You can see me have my room and my class, my desk at the 3rd floor on the left window. That's what my room was. That's where I grew up. Unfortunately, we left that village and went to the plain area of Nepal, which many Nepalese do. But what I remember is this particular mountain on the left, Annapurna. And there, a particular pile of snow, which is like how we put the rice after we harvest them. And by looking at it, my father could forecast whether it is going to be a hailstorm, whether the monsoon is going to be delayed, whether there will be flood, and he would plan agricultural calendar according to that. So, probably morning time around this, I was out in the field and I got possessed by Annapurna. This is what I remember. I become, in Nepali, we call it Annapurna Maya. Just I am all over Annapurna, it comes to me. Akashic experience, you might want to call, or a shamanic, or whatever happened. And I didn't know what that was. But gradually, as I went out of the village, went to Kathmandu, then to Stanford, then to several universities in the US as a professor. Now I am in Prescott, Arizona, going to Santa Fe to start a new program, PhD program on regenerative leadership. This Annapurna idea begins to grow and grow and grow. And I'm incorporating all my experiences of what the books I have read, where I have traveled, people I have talked with, and see if we could offer a window of regeneration in this very tumultuous period of what I call CCCs. Next. So the theme for today is then Annapurna abundance, our wisdom contribution to the world and the cosmos. So this is exactly could have been my window when I was growing up. I was there until about, I went to college, about 13, 14 years. And that's the Fistial Mountain. And on the right is the Annapurna, and the pile of snow is right there. So now today in 2021, what does this landscape tell us about? Can we create abundance in collaboration with all other species and invoking that kind of a spiritual tradition that there can be abundance, there can be full harvest if we do the right thing, right combination of behavior, human behavior. You see, Annapurna tells us, if you do it right, you will get abundance. If you do wrong, adharma, in Hindu we call it adharma. So the householder has a dharma, right way of doing things, and adharma, wrong way of doing things. If we do the right way of doing things, we will create abundance, and that will continue forever. Next. Yes. So in 2021, Mike has helped me making this picture that how would a regenerative curriculum look like, that is pluri-species collaborating. So basically, borrowing from some Chinese health idea, the umbilical cord seems like where the Agni is. Jim, you probably are very familiar with that idea, the fire, where the outside energy the body takes it, converts into fire and energy, right? And then flow and energy and information goes into this is what you call the moment of life. But that happens within a biome and the biofield. Then we are in a household, and I call the three households, the ecological household, economic household, and the socio-cultural household, including our old views and beliefs and rituals. Then we are set in a bioregion. These bioregions are within a biosphere, and that biosphere is within the galaxy. And now we are hearing that there might be 300 million galaxies, like what we know today. So it continues and all that. So now this could be a metaphor for a good kind of a design for how these regenerative actions could be starting from the fire within the body of each species to remaking what is damaged, regenerating, and we will see more of that. Next. So what I see from my almost global travels and reading too many books and too many articles every day is that we need a complete paradigm shift from humans as supreme, thanks to the enlightenment and the techno-industrial paradigm, I call it. I don't say West and East, by the way, because Japan is in the East, but has some of these techno-industrial fantasies, right? So techno-industrial enterprise and the enlightenment took us to the idea that humans are supreme. We need to shift to see life as supreme, but not only human life is supreme, but every life is supreme. If we do that, I think we are moving into the right and a more comprehensive direction beyond East and West, North and South, human and non-human. For that, I think the idea of waves of life is defined by Friedrich Capra and others comes to use. So waves of life through vitals of the biosphere, and I'm borrowing the word EthnoSphere from Wade Davis, which you probably all of you have read. And I'm adding the learning and the leadership sphere into the biosphere and the EthnoSphere. And that the learning leadership sphere is probably my unique contribution. So what is happening now in 2021? we have degenerated the carbon, soil, water, climate waves. We need a massive, massive work, which we will show in bioregions today and on April 21, how we plan to do that. Soil, food, health waves have been degenerated, completely dismantled in many ways. Wood wide waves, that comes from Simone Simrad from British Columbia, her work on the wood wide waves. Watershed, so now we go into the human and the participation, collaboration between human and the pluri-species in the form of regenerating watersheds, which some of our presentation today from Mexico and Peru will highlight. Food sheds, we will have a lot of examples of that. Fiber shed, particularly Mauricio will be talking about the fiber shed as a new form of collaborative economy, and energy sheds. And with that, we will build in the learning and the leadership way, which Mike and I will talk a lot. And here we also find Paul Hawken's proposal to draw it down, not only adapt and mitigate. And there we are bringing some Himalayan and bioregional unique things, like in the Himalayas, we start with water, bamboo, soil, carbon, biochar, agroforestry, and all that. So with this combination of different, what we already know, and how to create that more synergistically, I think we can do regenerative abundance. Next. So this is my way of looking at it, that to overcome the CCCs, pluri-species are invited to co-create regenerative abundance, which requires, as we said, by reorienting Homo sapiens sapien, the wise ones, to become beneficial member rather than harmful of an abundant biosphere. We draw abundantly from earth-based, indigenous, peasant, and mountainous and pluri-spiritual traditions, and I have listed several. It could be biodynamic agriculture, to the Chinampa system of Mexico, which Elias will be explaining, and all that. Next. And another way of kind of looking at it is, we're basically talking about different degrees and levels of nature. So let's say if that nature with all capital is the biosphere, nature with N only capital is the ethnosphere, in the sense of the human, what the human system has made, the social, cultural, economic, architectural, that. And if we have all small letters, nature, that's where the learning and leadership part of it is. That's where Annapurna Pluriversity comes, that's where ubiquity comes, that's where all our grassroots ideas and actions come into play. Next. Yes. So I have also developed a special framework for how a child, from a child to the youth to the PhD students, which we will start soon in Santa Fe, could go through this 4D process, I call it, the diagnosis, the realm of the brain, the design, the realm of the gut, the hand, the technique, and the dream, that's the realm of the heart, and the delivery, that's the realm of the soul, the service. Like Jim, when I talk about the delivery and the dream, the soul, people like you, or Saint Francis of Assisi, or Mahatma Gandhi, or Mother Teresa, they were completely guided by the fourth D. So 4Ds can reverberate from micro, from as we show, from the umbilicus to macro, to meso, to meta scales. It can envelop regenerative life as a machine, part of it. Life as an emergent, magical, mystical, mysterious properties. And in that Akashic experience, like the way the Annapurna comes into me without my permission or knowledge, and then it manifests in 60 years as a global phenomena. At least I talk about it. That how do you explain that? From Kabir to Rumi, from Mahatma Gandhi to Janine Benyus, life continues to flow as an energy, as an information, and a regeneration. So if we could immerse the learner of any age group, any part of their life into this flow, we will be enabling this person to thrive and create abundance even during CCCs. Next. So some of the ancestors that we draw from, the idea of Earth democracy by Vandana is powerful. We need to really listen to her. As she grows old, we need to learn everything she has been saying. Mahatma Gandhi has always been my inspiration, and his idea that we need to differentiate between the greed and the need. Until we do that, no amount of innovation is going to help us. Frizaf Kapra has been a friend and inspiration, enhance and enrich the wave of life forever. And Paul Hawkins draw down, and also he, in his earlier book, he talks about this, the two most complex system, the human social system and the natural biospheric system. How do you bring coherence into that? I think these four give us a lot of insight and wisdom, what to do now. Next. So this is the girl on the left is from Portland, Oregon, where I have my student and myself. We had a team. We started learning gardens to teach children in the garden and give them a piece of land, and they will do from soil to supper. And one of the fourth grade, when they were digging, look what she found: the root going down from the grass. And they instinctively knew that there was no teacher to tell them that this was important. And she says, look, the root is going so far down. You see, now the work of Wes Jackson in Land Institute, which I have visited, and the director of research is my close friend, is exactly they are doing that soil carbon, you see, in the prairie. So this is the kind of learning. So what we are thinking in this bioregion and different places is we call them living learning laboratories, where all these regenerative, how to regenerate abundance will be taught at different age group at the level of their complexity. Mike will talk a little bit more at the end of this. So basically, everything is learning, everything is a laboratory, but it is alive. It's not in the abstract. So in that sense, we might be going a little bit away from kind of Platonic and the Socrates kind of that kind of textual Greek pedagogy a little bit. Maybe go to those texts through immersing in the soil, in the water, in the plant, in the forest. Next. So this is, now we need to combine, bring together the idea of how to live, that is the insight from Mahatma Gandhi, with how to create your livelihood by doing it right on the land. So this is also our peasant tradition from South Asia and also China. And that is constant taking care of the soil fertility, by the way. that's all what it is, either through the cow dung or the human manureage in China, that the humans have perfected. And in part of Japan and also the One Easter Revolution example, we need to bring in the livelihood so that people do not protect nature and go to find another job. We need to have livelihood in doing what they want. So in the Himalayas, I will explain more on April 21 session. This is what we have figured out, that we take a bioregional approach, and it does need to have a socio-economic household has to be active, socio-ecological household has to be active, and economic ecological household has to be active. Then we can retain these people on the land while they don't have to worry about to send their children to school or hospital or have their health. So this is example in eco-trust work of in Portland, Oregon. I have learned a lot from that, how you can create, they call it conservation economy. We call it regenerative economy. And in the Himalayas, I will explain more in our April session. This is how we are working on, at this point, probably 15 different spots in 4 different river valleys in the Annapurna bioregion. And this is the framework we are doing. There will be economy, there will be skill, there will be water, and the next slide will show more. Mike? This is what we, after a pretty deep study of the Himalayas, why there has been landslide, why there has been flood, and why people are running away from the mountain hillside, looks like the water is the primary element, and because of the steep slope, we can tell, right? Also, it is not only that, it is the soil, loss of soil carbon that used to capture the rainfall and use it for the soil. Because of lack of carbon, the rain runs away and creates flood and landslide instead of creating another life of crop and another livelihood. So we are working on what are those rain harvest technologies, how we can use that, and then around that, then create the soil carbon, around that, create the biochar, biomass, and then all that we will explain. And then there will be another presentation today on the role of bamboo as one of the primary ingredient on regeneration in the Himalayas. So we will again explain this on April 21. Next. So this is the bamboo that Nirpal Adhikari will be talking right after Mike. He will explain more. But look at the role of the bamboo as the pluri-species collaborator in regeneration. Who had ever put bamboo as one of the primary actor, probably, if we could be humble and ask the bamboo, could you please regenerate us? You see, so bamboo is food, medicine, nutrient. It is a stabilizer of the landslide, and it harvests the flood and makes it soil. And we know exactly how to do that. And it offers housing, timber, fiber, furniture, clothing. Whole bamboo economy could be created all the way from Vietnam to Afghanistan in the Himalayan belt. And it's a wild grass, by the way. It's not even a tree. So, next. Just because I said too many words, too many heady things, so maybe rather than being mindful on the left, let's be mindful and empty, So next. So Mike will elaborate on our pedagogical strategy for regenerating abundance. And one of the sites we are very excited about is it will happen in the gardens. We want that the garden is the medium place, like middle place between the wild and the forest to the household and the domestic. And in the garden, we can create both the household and the forest. And there, this is the site of learning through learning gardens, as we did in Portland, Oregon, and here in Prescott also. I have done some work in Peru, introducing learning gardens. And now we will bring water gardens, forest gardens, medicinal gardens, and sacred gardens. So we will immerse these children and youth and every adult in understanding the abundant life regeneration through these gardens. So Mike will then explain our curricular framework, right?
Good morning. So my role is to look at the curriculum related to our framework. So for Annapurna Pluriversities, we developed will be developing a global framework that different bioregions could apply then specifically to their place. So part of it that I'll be presenting today is about how we're going to take this grade 4 all the way up through municipal leaders and teachers and college students, and then kind of build that up going down, making it more and more complex, and then also moving from left to right within the regenerative gardens curriculum. And then on the 21st, Dr. Mary Jackson will talk about the regenerative learning modalities. So what I'm going to present is an example of this being done within the 4th grade curriculum. So if you look back here, I'm going to kind of look at this area right here. So we have these various gardens. We have a learning garden, water garden, forest garden, medicinal garden, kitchen, cooking garden, a sacred garden, and schools as ecosystems garden. And if we look at our global framework at the 4th grade, for example, in the learning garden, we would be looking at climate disruption on soil to supper. So at whatever grade level we're looking at, or whatever bioregion at this 4th grade, they would then work with Annapurna Pluriversities and the bioregional team leaders to align for their specific place. So in the water at the 4th grade, we would be looking at disruption of water cycle like floods. Forest, we'd be looking at pollinators. Anyways, we would be looking at these various components at this global level. Then this is an example of, I'm from Wisconsin, and I'm in the Midwest in the Great Lakes region. And so this is how we would apply it, align with our local curriculum, but also align with the global framework. So for example, at the 4th grade in the learning garden, we would be looking at climate disruption and specifically looking at agriculture and dairy farms in Wisconsin and within the learning garden. And when we look at the water gardens, we would be specifically looking at the Great Lakes Basin, which is, all of the Great Lakes up into Canada, eastern Wisconsin, and then the Midwest, central Midwest United States. Within the forest gardens, we would probably do field experiences with students where they would look at pollinators and seeds, and then we'd look at interruptions of photosynthesis in our school forest. Now, keep in mind, every one of these also would focus on the theme of climate disruption. Within medicinal gardens, we would look at medicinal plants around the school. So the kids would literally go for walks around the school, and they would learn about medicinal plants like cattails, or one of my favorites is the dandelion, which is this one in the bottom right. There's so many things that we can do with these plants and how they're now being affected by climate disruption, and that can be worked into the existing curriculum already. Kitchen and cooking would look at literally the students looking at, that may not be for kitchen and cooking. That actually should have been in a different spot, but that's okay. We'll figure that out. But anyways, kitchen and cooking will be looking at something related to how they actually do the cooking in the classroom. For example, we have a lot of apple farms in Wisconsin, and looking at how the apple farms and the pollinators for apples are being affected. Sacred would be taking the students and immersing them in a natural environment or in the culture. And because farming is really important to the culture in Wisconsin, we would be specifically looking at how it's interrupting that farm culture that we have. And then lastly, schools as ecosystems, we would be looking at the schoolyard, maybe nutrient cycles and composting and so on. So like I said, we're going to be one of the bioregions here in the Midwest. I'm actually located right around here. But like I said, this is this Great Lakes Basin is really important to our curriculum and our culture here in Wisconsin. So that's where that comes in. And then on the 21st, as I said before, Dr. Mary Jackson will present on the regenerative learning modalities. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mike. Would you like to introduce a little bit about your role as a teacher and what you did as a peer doctoral student?
Yeah, sure. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, our internet is being a little sketchy right now here. So I went to the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point. Actually, Dr. Parajuli was my chairman for my research, and I looked at indigenous people in our state and how they are adapting to climate disruption. Specifically looked at our Native American, two of our Native American tribes in northern Wisconsin. I'm also a K through 12 teacher, specifically focused on the earth sciences. So I teach students mostly 9 through 12 about the different earth sciences, astronomy, meteorology, oceanography, geology. And then I also am faculty at a local college where I help with sustainability initiatives as well.
Thank you, Mike. That was, yeah, that's great. Jim, you might be knowing that I engaged several of my former advisees and then also train the new advisees. This is the strategy. This is the living learning laboratory for an optimal scenario. So now I would like to move to Nirpal Adhikari, a young man from Nepal who came to America like everybody else did in his generation. And he left America saying, I can do something right in Nepal, and with the smallest of the denominator, the bamboo. So here is our bamboo man from the Himalayas, Nirpal.
Hello.
We want to hear
Very
your
nice.
story now.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. I was in New York City. I was studying art and architecture, and this was in 2020. Right after 9/11, I was there, and I got to see work in New York. In the architecture scene, but then I thought like that's not my style. So I wanted to learn more. Then I went to New Mexico. I learned, I was very impressed by all these Adobe Pueblo housing. And I was really impressed how in New Mexico, earth was considered a very genuine material. People were taking it seriously. And and I wanted to go back to Nepal because, I love being in the mountains. And so I came back and I started looking at bamboo, and I was starting to look, because the scenario in Nepal and New Mexico is a bit different, because one is very wet and there's a lot of earthquake. So I needed some kind of reinforcement. And then I started looking at bamboo, like bamboo, because it's grows super fast. It's super strong, it can bend and come back to shape. It's like spring, natural spring. And it's very elastic material, and and it's everywhere. So I started looking at it, and in Nepal, like, bamboo is not considered a serious material. Then we started looking, like how we can do it. Then I started experimenting with joints. I started experimenting with treatment of bamboo, because in normal cases, it does not last long, but we developed some techniques. Which extended its life from 3 to 4 years, to 40, 50 years. And we were building some humble structures because people thought it was a good idea, but didn't take us very seriously. And so we had built one structure right in Gorkha, which is a small school. And I wanted to show that, you can build a school out of bamboo and make it very interesting. We built it, right after we finished the building. There was a huge earthquake, 2015 earthquake, And this building happened to be the only building that stood in the whole area. And all of a sudden people were like, you know, like, so we got famous after that. You know, people started taking us seriously. And ever since, we've been like building schools, we're building hospitals, building, you know, homes, and everything out of bamboo. You know, we're now building a monastery, and we are also in discussion to build a university out of bamboo. And we have an orphanage right here at the center of the city. So yeah, we're like, people are taking it seriously. You know, it took an earthquake for people to really shake their, you know, like prejudice. So yeah, today I'm going to talk about my works with bamboo. So should I share my, are we presenting here? Like, should I share my slide?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, like, you know, this is a bamboo bridge. This is from 1895. It's 100 and I don't know, 20 years.
Not seeing
ago.
your screen. Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, like, this is in a river, pretty long river, almost 100 feet. And, you know, like, amazing technology, you know, just using like bamboo grass, and they're making this structure. But then what happened is, with our education system, we try to discredit or undermine all our natural resources, and, you know, made it difficult. So we had only now taught people to trust steel and concrete, because it's supposed to be modern and durable and supposed to last hundreds of years. And, you know, and so what is happening is, now is Kathmandu is urbanizing at one of the highest speeds in the world. Kathmandu, which used to be, it is a World Heritage Site with about 10 World Heritage structures, is now turned into a concrete jungle. And there is this, you know, this education system gave this faith that concrete is super strong, it will last forever. But then we saw in last earthquake, you know, there's huge concrete buildings that also collapses, you know. And the problem with concrete is you cannot rebuild it, you know, with the same material. And, you know, like, when you build this, you are in debt. And, you know, like, it's kind of one-way street, you know, like, it's just a lot of input, you know, it's very extractive. So what we are saying is, like, you know, you can build modern structures out of local materials, which we, you know, which is grass, right, which you just cut. So first we did this experiment. You know, this is a site in Chitwan, which used to be like a big forest, you know, like in the early 18. Yeah.
Nirpal, if you're showing slides, we're not seeing them.
You're not seeing them? Oh, I'm
No.
so. Oh, sorry. I thought it was. A second. Now you see, right?
Yep,
Yes.
we see them now. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. So this is the bamboo bridge I was talking about. You know, and so, and this is the concrete. You know, this people have this unfounded faith, or like, you know, like obsession with concrete. You know, this it's shown as an invincible material that's super strong, but we saw in the last earthquake that it comes down like house of cards very easily, and this cannot be restored. So we did this, and we did an experiment about 10 years ago. You know, this is a land in Chitwan, which used to be a very dense forest. You know, like during British times, like the King George and all came here for hunting. You know, all this British Raj was like, and they used to take all this big wood from this area to build bridges in India, to build big palaces. In the 60s, you know, there was a big American project which wanted to create huge farmlands like the Tennessee style. and they sprayed DDT and kicked all the people out, and they gave aid to the government, saying like, you know, we need to develop this area and create modern farming system. So there was an active policy to, you know, get rid of all the forest and to create more rice fields. And so this is what we see now, you know, like there's no forest. So we did this, and every year there's more flooding now. And people blame it to climate change, but I don't think it's just because of climate change. It's because of bad policies. You know, you're just cutting down trees and like extracting sand. And then like, you know, you get this crazy flood. And, you know, and when you talk to the policymakers, it's like, oh, it's climate change. We cannot do anything. But that's not the case. Then we started planting. You know, we took this land, we worked with community, and we started growing. And this is 3 years after the plantation, and now in 5 years it's become like a vibrant forest, you know. So we've extended this project with hundreds of farmers in Chitwan, you know, like slowly. And we're using this bamboo. This is all bamboo, by the way. And we're using bamboo to build schools. You know, we take this and, you know, we build local schools. The walls are made with earth. You know, we are trying to show that you can build, this is inside of the school, you know, like we have beautiful bamboo ceiling. It creates a nice insulation. Earthen wall creates that thermal mass. You know, it's really nice and comfy to be inside. Even the furniture is made out of bamboo. So, you know, you just go out, cut the bamboo, treat it, and then build it. You know, it's so simple. And we built this library right in the center. Everything out of earth and bamboo. You know, it's a big vindication of our material, you know, because after the earthquake, there's so much faith in this material because it's lightweight, it sways. If there's an earthquake, comes back to shape, you know, super strong, super affordable. You know, like it really suits our terrain, right? So we built this university, and we built this school, you know, a 2-story school, you know, with a lot of open spaces, you know, like high ceiling, you know, earthen walls. This red walls you see is red earth, and on top you see yellow walls, it's yellow earth. You know, so it's got this very playful feel to it. It smells really good because it's just earth. There's no cement. And we're trying to show that, you know, there can be an economy which is non-extractive, you know, like you can regenerate land and at the same time build houses. You know, we don't have to make a choice. You know, it's not mutually exclusive. You know, this is a school like we're doing a lot of school projects like these, right? A modern school built with earth and bamboo. And also after the earthquake, you know, like we built like small model houses. You know, this was government gave about $3,000 per family. And, you know, it was, and if you build with concrete, you can build really small, you know, like not more than 200 square feet. But with local material, you can build like 450 square feet, but which is very comfortable, you know, very nice to be in, right? It's got yeah. And yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff, you know, like it's very hard to show everything in this short presentation, but you can go to our website and see more stuff. And also we're building a bamboo bicycle, you know, so we want to show that we want to build everything version with bamboo, you know, like with fabric, with housing, with food, and even now transportation. Yeah, that's it from me.
Peru, you're muted. Peru.
Sorry. Thank you, Nirpal. Perfect. Then for details, please visit our website, abari.org. and get in touch with Nepal or us is very central part of our Annapurna Pluriversities imagination, dream and design. Those of you, all of you participant, I see number like 95, that is amazing. So all of you, I would like you to know this is an open platform. We have just started it. All of your skills, knowledge, resources are needed. I have not internet skills, so please, those of you who have internet skill, we have to build our website. Those of you who have money and know how to generate money, you are most needed. So I would expect at least 20 of you to say, I am ready to engage and volunteer or more, and you have room, you are welcome. So I just want you to know that. Okay, thank you so much. Now we want to go to another part of the Himalayas, the northern slope, the China and the Tibet, Sichuan and Yunnan part of Tibet, part of China. And Vivian, are you there? So share your story and slides.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Pramod, for the invitation. I have been a longtime friend with Humanity Rising, and I'm really happy and honored to be part of it. Let me share my screen. So I hope my presentation is short and sweet. I actually have a lot to learn rather than much to share. This project that I'm going to share with you is a project very dear to my heart. I started joining them 2 years ago, but I have heard about this a forest school in a Sichuan Ganzi region, in a Tibetan cultural region in Sichuan for several years. I started to work with them as a researcher. I wanted to understand how did they do it as a almost like an
Vivian, could you put your slides full screen for us? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, is this better?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, so I started as a researcher. I wanted to understand how do they work almost as an acupuncture effect that generating this village and protecting its environment at the same time. So the village in this the school, or we would call it Yunhe Center, is in Sichuan, southwest Sichuan Ganzi region. It is actually very popular for its watchtower. It's very iconic, historical. A lot of families in the recent years actually destroy them and use the stones to build houses during the tourism rising. But recent years, and they started to appreciate and restore it because also the tourism are going into more qualitative growth. And this is our school starting, well, this is the view out of our window. The whole story started actually 5 years ago when my colleagues were invited to do a tourism, ecotourism planning for the local county. Because this county, as you see, is in a very beautiful region, and a lot of neighboring counties has already developed its tourism scheme with this large-scale infrastructure was built and big capitals coming in and creating hotels and turning the villagers into employees rather than their own community members. And then after 7 months study, my colleague did, and their urban planners, urban rural planners and tourism planners, nature educators, they did a tour for 7 months, and they basically turn over the government's proposal. They say, we're not going to follow this large scale, this kind of destructive tourism development because this area has very fragile cultural and ecosystem. And instead, we propose to do something small. And that plan wasn't fully approved by the government, but these people did it. They raised the money and they did it on their own. And so by doing this Yunhe Center, or we call it a forest school, we wanted to answer these questions. Well, I wouldn't say we're have the answer now. We're still on the way exploring, but we want to ask, is there a way to find a balance between tourism development and environmental protection? Do we have to compromise the ecosystems and community coherence in service of a tourism development that serving people from everywhere, but not from locals? And then can tourism actually becoming an opportunity to increase the well-being of both the community and the ecological regeneration? And furthermore, how can we start small? As an acupuncture, as I said, that can bring a system change. Because usually when you wanted to do something experimental, you wouldn't have a lot of resources to begin with. So starting small and strategically finding that right acupuncture point, and to us it's quite an interesting a challenge. So our strategy, as I said, is to by creating a center, or we call it Environment Learning Center, to be part of this community, to start grow together with the community. And we started also a co-op, a tourism agriculture co-op, and we become part of the co-op members, so that if we're bringing in students, bringing in researchers who use our facility, and these people will stay with the village families. And so all this money for transportation and for accommodations will go directly to the villagers. I'll explain later how exactly do we do it, and it all together for a purpose of creating a balanced tourism development in between community development as well as nature preservation. And this is how it all started. We found a house that is half broken, and the family actually wanted to take it down and bring the stones and build a homestay somewhere else. And we realized that a lot of locals, when they see this tourism rising, and they started to build houses in a more modern style, and they think that might attract tourism. But in fact, our researchers, our architects came and they really wanted to appreciate. But as many of you know, that the Tibetan houses, traditional houses, are very, very big, and the inner spaces might not fully be used effectively for a learning center. And we also wanted to use this renovation of the center as a pilot showcase for some green technologies, and for the villagers, local villagers, if they want to readapt their houses into a modern ones. And here are some technologies, and cheap, affordable, and green, sustainable, that you can choose from. And we also hope these areas become, these different technologies can become some pilots for the governments to come and see, so that they can also promote in these regions. This is the center when it's built. It was actually built in for quite a long time. We insisted to work with the local to create the synergy when we actually building it. So the process of building the house, it is a learning process. So the house is half done, but we're running events and other conversations together with the locals and also with the visitors. So what does the center do exactly? So we have two components. One is education, equal education. One is the economic development part. So that the equal education also serves as a multiple facing. So on one way, it's a center that's situating in this beautiful, super diverse in nature environment. And we want people to come here not only to take pictures, like quickly spend a few hours with a tourist bus and leave, as the kind of a 1.0 stage of tourism development in China. We want them to really spend some time and enjoy the time and really understand and learn this local wisdoms with the locals who are living their own life, rather than being your servant as a tourism servant. And then on the other hand, we realized that a lot of young people left the village and moving to the cities. we hope that also be able to provide a kind of job trainings, career opportunity trainings, so that young people, if they want to come back, they have a choice. And ecologically, so for the economy side, we, as I said, we created a co-op together with the local families on a kind of a mechanism called collective conservation contract. It is a model that we followed a Global Environment Institute based in Beijing, and basically it's a contract that's signed among the co-op members that if you agree to protect the environment and do the water monitorings and soil regenerations and other kind of ecological stewardship work, and then we will allocate the tourism and clients, so to say, clients to stay at your home. And so, and every family that becoming part of this co-op will also receive tourism students and guests from our organizations. So just a quick scan through as the work. I resonate so much with what Pramod just introduced, and the education goes with mind and heart and body, and the gut is a very interesting component that we are not yet adding. I will. For the agriculture part, we're also starting a seed collector and hoping to connect with our bioregions and to share knowledge of seeds, because we have a lot of the cultures and language is very different. And so one perennial grass or medicinal herb that was called in this name, but called in different names on the other side of the mountains. And we hope to create this synthesis, the knowledge of this local perennial herbal and especially medicinal herbs. And we also have, we're bringing in really guests from all over the world before pandemic, and to have a lot of interactions with the locals. And then it was beautiful for, you know, before that, the local young people especially, they all wanted to either become a government officials or they wanted to leave the village. But now they come and see there's so many people come and appreciate my culture, appreciate my nature. They also raise this confidence to stay and to even create business locally. So events and local wisdom workshops. And I added this picture just now because earlier we were sharing the school itself as an ecosystem, and that I resonate very much. For us, it's not only the school, but it's also the larger surrounding regions around us is a lively and animous landscape that we are just like a little part within it. And as you can see all around our centers, that's the Mortal Mountains. That's a very important spiritual sites for the local cultures. And then people also come to do the rituals, pilgrimage, and hiking, trekking, as well as locals. We have once a year rituals for actually for girls to become a rite of passage, if that's how you call it, to at a certain age. So it's actually it has a very strong culture for women and female. And then also, this is interesting that our center is also a facility for researchers, anthropologists, scientists, and ecologists who come and study the region, and they can come and use our facilities. And in exchange, we ask them to give a class to the locals. And then if we have people from outside, and they will also stay here and spend a few hours and to interact with learners in the local communities. And at the very beginning, when we enter, we are obviously not from local. We are called by this land to come and to share and learn its stories. But it was not always easy to interact with the local community. And at the very beginning, the local educational bureaus were quite suspicious on us, and they don't know what you're doing, why you're doing it. And they asked their children not to come to our schools. But after 5 years, they are now actually hosting their local educators meeting in the county in our school. And for us, it was a tremendous recognition. And right now we are actually creating乡土教材, how to call it, or creating a course to send to the local public schools on its own traditional culture and in nature and environment. And it's on its way for a much larger regions. And we hope the local public schools and students could also benefit from the courses, but also mainly to start appreciate and creating this confidence of their own culture. So yeah, and this is the center, and I hope one day we can welcome all of you here. And much more to this, I wanted to, through this sharing together with all of you, to find how can we connect even more in this local bioregion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vivian. Just a perfect mix. Just for all of you, we are working on both sides of the Himalayas, northern slope and the southern slope. And our wildest dream is through the Himalayan and ecological regeneration, the competing two nations, two civilizations, Indian and the Chinese, will come together, and Nepal could play a role on how to create a Asia-wide ecological civilization. So that's probably a 30-year project. But anyway, we have that in our mind. So now we will move to South America. We have collaborative activities in Peruvian Andes and Colombian Andes and Mexico City. The Colombian Andes, today they cannot come, but we will feature them on April 21, especially the place called Barichara, where I had an opportunity to spend a whole month in 2019. So now I want to invite Mauricio from the Peruvian Andes and the pasture, the fiber shade, and water regeneration, all the whatever you are doing, share with us.
Thank you, Pramod, for the invitation, for the kind words, and Jim for convening and hosting such an inspirational journey throughout these months. I've been following this, and I'm honored now to share a bit of what we're enabling here in the Andes. I'll share screen. Share screen.
Yes, you are there.
Good. What's happening? ¿Qué pasa? I don't know what's Do you happen to see my screen now?
Yes, could you make it full screen? Yeah, it's perfect.
Full screen now.
Yeah.
Full screen, thank
you. Oh,
you.
it is in full screen. Okay, great.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm Mauricio Núñez Oporto, and I'm pleased to introduce the Andean Pastoral Livelihood Initiative. We are a collective committed to catalyzing integrated capital pathways into community-led initiatives for landscape restoration and human well-being. I'll ground this dialogue in the livelihood we work, that is Andean pastoralism, well, defining pastoralism as a way of life that is related to camelid livestock herding. We have vertical transhumans, people, pastoral herders going down the valleys in summer and up the valleys in winter, and they use that as a nutrient dynamic and exchange way as well. It's a strategy of cultural development. Well, with limited means of agricultural production above 4,000 meters, it's the only way of engaging at the landscape scale. There's a domestication of animals, alpacas and llamas, that are well adapted to mountain ranges. And this livelihood is characterized by the exchange with other communities and bioregions, as we'll see further. I want to ground in the history of this. It starts, the first petroglyph starts in Toquepala in Tacna, 10,000 years ago, before Common Area. Other magnificent event happened in Chimu culture in Chanchan in 15th century. There was a big sacrifice of 140 kids and 200 llamas. From what I know, it's the biggest sacrifice in the world yet. We have the llama relation in Karwanaiwi, as well in the constellations in the stars. And we have ceramics embedding fertility of these animals and livestock in the Moche culture. So throughout Peru, we have this fascinating way of relating. One was the llama caravans that were pathways of commercialization within the Tahuantinsuyo, from Andean to the coast, to the jungle. And they were within 30 to 80 animals, and as well the characteristics of the herd movement was really particular of male and female and kind of wild animals on the front, and the really domesticated and tame ones on the back, pushing the herd forth. This way of engaging and cultural relations have been lost. We have a couple of landscapes that still use these caravans. It could take up to 3 months to reach to the other place of exchanging salt or jerky meat. We have another process happening that it's the chaku of the vicuñas. It can take up to 8 days of harvesting, gathering vicuñas that are wild throughout landscapes, and we can harvest up to 200 grams of vicuña fiber. It's really valuable. It's the most fine fiber in the world. And it's a really great balance of community engagement, venture, and social cohesion. It's beautiful. Well, we have chronicles from Inca Garcilaso de la Vega relating to 4 functions of camelids. So sacrifice, transport, fiber, and as well food security. And he engaged in this chronicle of they saw real humans, on humans and non-humans. And the Incas, the person was of body and soul, and the soul was immortal, and the body was made up of soil because they went back into soil. And that's why they call the earth Alcapayasca, that it's the animated earth, that is like kind of like a breathing entity organism that harvested souls while it produces bounties. I'll ground in the biocultural approach, as Pramod was saying. Indigenous peoples view the world holistically. The physical, biological, cultural, and spiritual spheres are all interconnected and are understood as one whole and as one system. The focus is such worldview and engagement in the cosmos is on relationships and processes, on how you relate to your neighbor, the tree, the bounties, the fruits, and an indigenous biocultural approach is needed, and it's born out of a holistic understanding on a practical engagement within landscapes and livelihoods and rights and responsibilities. We've been adapting this millennium of ecosystem assessment and to access biocultural approaches and livelihood pathways, we needed to encounter difficulties in translating these concepts into meaning and local evaluation processes. So how to move from research frameworks into more holistic, contextualized ones to embed transdisciplinary processes. This was born out of that pathway, the Andean cosmological framework. It is holistic, recognizes complexity, and provides meaning to local inquiry processes at the livelihood landscapes and regional scales. The research on particular topic becomes inclusive of Quechua knowledge and perspectives and embeds meaning. So projects need to be reevaluated, and likely one perspective it's not likely to be privileged become another, so no biases. The Chacana cross figures is sacred to the Quechua people and provides an appropriate pattern that illustrates how order in the world is shaped by collective processes based on the principles of reciprocity, of Aini, that runs across Kai Pacha, Hanan Pacha, and Urku Pacha, the three worlds that were interconnected in space and times. The scales represent both times and space and allow the past and future to come into understanding. So what we're seeing in this cosmological framework is the ecosystem and the interaction with humans are understood through 4 dimensions of the cross and the cosmos, the cyclical nature of all processes, that's the Pachacuti, all interconnected systems of nature and people, that it's Pachamama, the collective social processes, that it's the Ayu, the governance systems, the customary laws, and learning through love, that it's Munai and work, achieving a higher state of knowledge about the whole system, that it's embedded in Yachay. So if we compare this cosmological framework with the previously we once were assessing, we can relate into ecosystem services. That is like kind of like an utilitarian capital-driven approach. But when we embed Pachamama, we see the explanation as heritage, as incommensurably values of the interconnectedness of the way of life. Later in this being born, the Indigenous Peoples Climate Change Assessment Initiative, that it's the encompassing all at the global scale. It empowers Indigenous people to use their own frameworks and practices, and this conceptual framework was built on universal Indigenous knowledge. It embeds communication for participatory development, participatory training methodologies, rural appraisals, and all of that. So local biocultural systems are made up of factors that contribute to Indigenous resilience, say collective memory, biocultural diversity, governance structures. The end goal of maintaining resilient biocultural systems is to live by the practical philosophy of buen vivir, that it's well-being, based on Quechua concept of summa causae. And achieving summa causae or buen vivir includes the practice of reciprocity, that it's embedded through appropriate engagement of the practices within the natural and social worlds, social improvement, developments as an ongoing processes, and enhancing the well-being of others. So this complexity is embraced through the interactions indicated by the arrows as being across scales and cultural systems. Well, after all this grounding in the cosmology, entomology of Andean pastoralism, I'm pleased to introduce you to the Andean Pastoral Livelihood Initiative. We uplift community livelihoods and landscape functions through regenerative rangeland governance and management with pastoral partners in southern Peru, bringing highly differentiated yarn produce for economic sustenance. On the contextualization of the problem, we have 20 million hectares of rangelands, 65 are on poor functioning conditions, and as you can see on the red and orange image in the Huancavelica region. And on the human realities, we have 1 million people dependent on rangelands. And in Peru, 120,000 people are alpaca herders and breeders. 80% live in extreme poverty. We believe that our Andean villages has the creativity and determination to build healthy, resilient futures, defending our homelands and community rights. We need to build their capacities and capabilities to take action in their own community and landscape. We are investing in the vision, leadership, and development of change makers and create communities of practice for our people to come together. It will be a safe space to strengthen their cultural traditions, engage with alternative education, and provide support while building them with resilient ventures and thriving economies. How we perceive landscape as integrated management for community well-being, looking at the landscape as the appropriate scale of action. Our transformational pathway, it's threefold. So on people, it's the transversal approaches as gender, intercultural dialogue, and intergenerational approaches. On planet, grounding in adaptive management pathways for land management and governance. And on the financial sustainability side, we see ecological economics based on Andean principles and trade and commerce ways that fulfill this livelihood. Value add their natural resource and invest in these livelihoods is what this graphic is explaining. We'll go through adaptive management, fiber processing, tapping into regenerative fiber supply chain, and that can create a fund that invests in landscapes and livelihoods, cohesion, and well-being. So we empower social cohesion at the community level, community engagement and mobilization approach, and we're taking a unique pathway to enterprise development. The ownership and equity of pastoral families in business models and value creation is embedded, and articulating different communities and associations for more regenerative alpaca textile and producer web, moving beyond supply chain into a holistic understanding of landscape and the producer web. So we're looking for aligned partners, investors, allies, communities of practice that delve deep within participatory processes on livelihood adaptation pathways for integrated landscape management and community well-being. So we're enabling pastoral partners to nurture their regenerative culture for the benefit of rangelands, wildlife, and families in Andean landscapes. Desminal.
Mauricio, maybe thank you. Let's give a time to Elias, so we might have a little bit of time constraint, but it was so perfectly biocultural and the bioregional framework and how life system, livelihood, learning, and leadership is integrated already. It's amazing, and that we will collaborate so much on the Himalayan landscape, the Andes and the Amazon, and even African. We are looking into some of the Ethiopian highlands and all that. So those of you, I see some comments from participants. Yeah, if you are feeling like the techno-industrial civilizational path has been a little rough and too individual and dry, don't worry, we will bring you back to life. We have a lot of juice still left. That the colonization and industrialization has not sucked us all up, but it's a very reciprocal process. If I had not gone to Stanford, it would have been difficult for me to bring this in the frame that I bring to the world. You see, it's like that. So I learned a lot from techno-industrial. I digested it, I pooped it, I'm bringing something else. So this is mutual collaboration. Okay, now I want to invite another story of biocultural, bioregional regeneration from Mexico City. Elias, are you there?
Of course. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I'm here. I can start my video.
Yes, please.
It says not possible to start video.
Yeah, I see Design Studio. Yes.
Hello. Such an honor to be here. Such a wonderful morning. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and being a part of it. My name is Elias Catan. I work from Mexico City in the Neo-Mexican Transvolcanic Axis, in the center of it, the belly button of the world, if you will. A place closer, near to the water, where we have developed a very bad relationship with it. We know this systemic problems, and this map by Capra and based on Lester Brown's book seems to me, wow, like overwhelming, right? And how I've managed to try to bring it into the city is with things relating to air quality. Mexico has around, 10,000 deaths, right? Just Mexico City. It's around 40,000 deaths, environmental air quality in cities. And what we are doing is investing in what we call gray infrastructure, right? That is most time not working, one of the most corrupt endeavors in the human political system. And what we've tried to do is merge things towards green infrastructures, harvesting rainwater, wetlands, food forests, food gardens, and trying to integrate this with the systems that the city already has, like mobility systems, because it's not about just one thing. You know, we need to see the system and how to integrate it. In this watershed, mobility and water has been one and the same. And again, we see how we invest in mobility is extremely oriented towards car infrastructure and not how people move, which is 80% public transportation. And I deeply invite this Plan B book, Lester Brown, because it sets a budget, because sometimes we argue though, oh, regenerating a river would be nice, but there's no money for it. The fact of the matter is that there's a lot of money. We need to allocate it differently. We need to tax it differently and really get involved in how we can channel this mega budget to save humanity. We divide it by people with a credit card, and it's $300 per person a year. So we really need to change our systems and see where we were. This is Mexico City 1300, Mexico City 1850, Mexico City today, closer, near to the water. And as a dear friend of mine says, we are going to drown thirsty. What we are most probably to die in Mexico City is drowning thirsty. We have so much rain. This is Magdalena River, right? A couple of years ago, 20, 30 minutes from my house. This is Xochimilco, where we enjoyed one of the most beautiful thunderstorms when Pramod was visiting. These are the systems that, again, are in dire collapse. And, you know, Mexico City has been this scenario for apocalyptic scenarios over and over, as a literal Hollywood scenario film, as earthquakes. But we run towards the buildings, and we have the most regenerative organism the planet knows, the axolotl. So a lot of our work has been trying to grapple all of this complexity and just try to frame an understanding on our watershed. Cuenca, we say in Spanish. Nuestra cuenca hidrológica, right? Our watershed, our catchment. These are the rivers in Mexico City, Mexico City's basin. So a lot of how I say it is that we've tried to further culture so I can get the projects I want to do, because the projects I would like to do as a regenerative designer, as an architect, an urbanist, need this culture to ask for them. They need people and government to say, okay, let's do this, because it's federal territory, it's local territory. So we really need a cultural actualization. And we jump at any opportunity, like this time where we were invited to paint the rivers in the Mexico City map in the main plaza, or we recollected little water tubes from 40 different places across the watershed to get to know the quality of our water. We design buildings that have look for high ecological performance, habitat, materials, water, energy. But again, it's that those are like objects and art maybe that help you guide towards an understanding. But what we want to really craft is taking from the regenesis story of place. It's a process that has deeply nurtured me in my own development, and I use it for any type of project that we do. It's understanding Earth systems, how they have dictated human systems and generated ultimately our cosmology. From these workshops, because we worked with Regenesis in a couple of different scenarios, we projects did not move forward because of the government or the decision maker. So in Mexico City, we did it the other way around. We had the workshops first, not as a client relationship, more as an academic just endeavor. We invited 40 people into a workshop. These workshops are ongoing to this day. And between the first and second workshop, Regenerating Piedad River became something that me and my office really took on. It's the first river to be tubed in Latin America. And it's where the great infrastructure really started to hold on. So from these workshops and the renderings, because they wanted to put palm trees over this tubed river, so we decided to make a movement out of things. And we created the hashtag Picnic en el Rio because of this like psychomagic Jodorowskian point of view of like, what would we do if the river were healthy? We would go have a picnic. And eventually one mayor kicked us out. We became a trending topic. And at the end of his regency, the last mayor, Mancera, we helped build the first public wetland. Our biologist likes to say the world. I don't know, I think at least Mexico and possibly Latin America. Here he is the hydrobiologist in a wetland that treats sewer, river water. Cuatro al Cubo is our NGO. It's because we want to see at water, mobility, public space, and responsible consumption at 4 different levels: individually, collectively, locally, and regionally. And change of habits, budgets, infrastructures, and law. 4 by 4 by 4. We want to rebrand the watershed aspect, the biologist, the ecological complexity. It's above me, and really want to frame things in a way that could be better understood. So we do a lot of topographical models. In Ecoducto, we put a literal watershed. Here's my owner also next to it. And this is the dynamic. Because of building this great infrastructure, we have lost our lake, our living system, our connection to our ecosystem. And we like to jump at different endeavors of just helping generate these conversational drifts, as we call them. Like when Trump wanted a wall, this is an official submission to the White House of eliminating the wall idea, eliminating the border altogether, generating energy, interconnecting our watersheds, our borders, and it's about hyperconnection, not disconnection. And we like to play with futures. This is a little snippet of an endeavor that's taking form right now.
How do we do it? Oh, it was amazing. It started off with these student meetings and revolutions, and the guerrilla art transformed the city into that pivotal point where everybody was behind the science instead of the politics, and it resulted in a total transformation of the city into these micro-connected oases.
We like to do art sculptures that go to Burning Man and speak about the regenerative aspect of the axolotl, and also taking a little bit into kind of a carnival, a celebration of getting there. Right now, we are trying to shape this with an app and an application, a game, if you will, that will invite you to do these things within your own city. We present actually next Saturday within the Design Science Studio, spearheaded by the Buckminster Fuller Institute. We want to help people do what we have done in the last 15 years, right? A bike lane should go there, so let's go paint it and make it beautiful. It's 32 people a day die in Mexico because they are run over. 32 people a day because there are not proper markings, crossings. I see this as a big design challenge. So we want to help people craft these different solutions in a gamified way, trying to understand our microshed, like Xochimilco's microshed, sub-watershed here, which this is the aspect of design we want to help people understand, help craft different projects for different points of the watershed. I am a fan of sci-fi, right? But we need to develop better narratives than Blade Runner, you know, and Elysium and Resident Evil. How can we create this, as Monica Bielski calls them, protopias? It's not a utopia, it's a protopia, and invite people to participate. I love technology, right? So we even toy around with the idea of HAL, the life-loving robot, about the deep integration about technology and biology. Maybe Hal will even give lectures in Harvard speaking about anthropology or his love of plants. We like to play with narratives that would have maybe have the Americas go over to Europe in a different way and build a pyramid over Notre Dame. We have played in a lot of different ways. And this is in the realm where we see that we can influence conversations.
They need to turn off their music. Go ahead, Elias.
Sorry, that's our little rocking video. I didn't hear you.
It's okay, Elias. The music was with the video. We're okay.
Sorry?
Everything's fine. The music's with the video. We can hear it.
So just in essence, what we are trying to get to is help develop a shared understanding of bioregion and what that bioregion can be, its potential, generating a field of people that can help thread and knit their potential related to the cities and bioregions' potential. A big part of this is hosting experiences where we can help people get to know each other, relate, and hopefully even realize the potential we are viewing as individuals. Having these platforms or structures or viewing ideas of viewing spaces that can give us ideas into our living systems. This is, again, Magdalena River. And I believe this is our greatest challenge as humanity. Cities are 80% of the problem, 70% of the problem. So I believe this is also one of our most dire solutions. Cities that are intertwined within their own ecosystems, maybe how Vancouver, how Phoenix, how Singapore, how Madrid, the river in Madrid, Madrid Rio, or Seoul, Cheongyeochan. We have this tendency, and I think it's just a matter of time where cities are really just like, I love this reference that came out recently, Wakanda, right? These highly integrated biosphere reserves that have cities embedded within them, right? This is part of what we are looking for. So thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, Señor Elias. Perfect. Look, so all of you who have joined us today, the humanity, I think Jim is right. He knows this instinct. It's upheaval happens and another new beauty is created. And you saw people like Vivian, look, in Chinese system, she is imagining, and her team, what they are trying to do, right? In Nepal, where it is all American hegemony of cement, we are now reimagining a bamboo civilization, bamboo-based civilization. Look at the fiber shade that Mauricio is working on. And by the way, there is also another lady in California. What is her name? Deborah Briggs. She has a book called Fiber Shade, based on the same principle of how to create economy around wool and fiber and our dressing. If we change the dressing, what we buy, What we create, we can change the economy, right? And then we have people like urban designers like Elias. And now I want to add in more. We are creating a smallest college called Southwestern College in Santa Fe, a new PhD program on visionary practice and regenerative leadership. And guess who is coming there as the first cohort? Elias, Mauricio, Vivian, Nirpal. Now in 5 years, what will we create? Think about this: global living, learning laboratories, alive, working, creating another world. But we need your support. We want you to be involved. You are not alone. Join us. Help us. Bring your skill. Bring your dream. We will build it together. In US, we have the Great Lake bioregion. We have the Rio Arriba, the Taos and the Colorado, Southern Colorado, and New Mexico, and Hopi, this complex. And California and Oregon joins there, or propose another bioregion, and please let me know. So now I want to transfer it to our wise mentor and leader, Jim Garrison. Please take us through, and we will see with another batch of Annapurna enthusiasts on April 21.
Thank you, Pramod, Elias, Mauricio, Vivian, Michael. A beautiful session today. I must say, Elias, my heart just hurt when I heard you say that 32 people a day are run over and killed in Mexico. That's horrendous.
Horrendous.
That's just horrendous, just to think of the wastage of life on a daily basis, just because of design.
Car
if
culture.
You think about it, just because of
it's car culture that we are being fed that your car is more important than your house. People sometimes invest more in their car than in their house, and it's my car, it's my private property, and move out of the way.
Yeah.
So, but it's also I deeply believe in infrastructure that influences culture and teaches you, right? So I need to believe design can be a better part of it, and that'll help guide the narrative and the politicians. And so that when like you're walking around in Seattle and people stop 20 meters away from you, like, please cross.
Some countries have a car culture, some countries have a pedestrian culture. So anyway, I just wanted to note that. And then Vivian, I must say my heart sang when you showed those scenes of Sichuan province. You know, I was born there. I was born in Sichuan province
Where? Which part?
West of Chengdu and Huili.
How do you know how many hours or how far?
Well, Huili is right along the Tibetan border. And my parents had gone out in 1946 to be missionaries in Tibet. The border was closed, so they stayed in this little tiny town of Huili. No running water, no electricity, walled little city for the next 5 years, actually. I was born in January 1951. That was right in the midst of the communist revolution and the invasion of Tibet. The Chinese went through that whole region when they invaded Tibet in 1950, 1951, and destroyed that precious culture. So to see what you're doing with eco technology in such a regenerative way was a beautiful thing. I love that region. I love China, love Tibet, and so just appreciated your presentation today, and all of you, down from Peru and different areas, Nepal and the bamboo bridges It's a beautiful session today, Pramod. So thank you all so much. And just to emphasize 2 points. One, this has all been about regeneration. And we're launching, as Pramod knows, and would invite Annapurna Pluriversities to join as an institutional partner, a whole new MBA, but rather than a master's in business administration, it's a master's in regenerative action. And you folks today have exemplified regenerative action in a beautiful, beautiful way. The other thing I would say, would love to have Annapurna Pluriversities involved, is that we're in the process of establishing a whole new global accreditation system called the Global Accreditation Council, because we're taking the position that accreditation is basically as broken and dysfunctional as our educational systems are. In fact, our educational systems are as broken and dysfunctional as they are because of the completely anachronistic accreditation systems that we were engaged in. So Ubiquity University, the University of International Cooperation, Ed Muller in Costa Rica, and a number of other academic institutions from all over the world, and NGOs are coming together to say that accreditation in the future needs to be regenerative. It needs to be linking knowledge and action to empower students to come together to solve global challenges, because we're running out of time. And we all know that the global situation, at the center of which is runaway climate change, is getting worse and worse year by year. And the educational systems can no longer stand by saying, well, we're just neutral. We just provide information, but your ethics and your spirituality and your personal inclinations are purely subjective. That's no longer tenable. Education has to return to its original root meaning of educare, leading forth in a combination of knowledge, ethics, and action. That is true learning. So Pramod, we would, and all of you, we would love to have you involved in our new Masters in Regenerative Action and our Global Accreditation Council. And if any of you out there are part of academic institutions that would be interested in joining our Global Accreditation Council, please be in touch with me or any one of our staff, because it's imperative that we begin to build the future by establishing new forms of institutional empowerment that can give credibility to what all of us are doing to make a better world. So thank you all for this session today. And then tomorrow, we're going to move from India, China, South America, Central America to Palestine.
Yes.
Where we're going to take up the issue of one of the most oppressed people in the world are the Palestinians. They've been under the boot of occupation, draconian occupation, apartheid occupation for over 75 years. And we're going to talk with a young woman, Allison Raymond, who has been working on human rights for Palestinians online. It's a completely new concept for how you deal with human rights. So we're going to be delving into the issue of Palestinian human rights tomorrow on Humanity Rising. Same time, same station. Remember, we're in this weird space of daylight savings time. where the United States started it a week ago and the rest of the world hasn't done it. So mark your clocks and try to find 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, because that's when we start. But Pramod, beautiful, beautiful session today, and all of you. It was inspiring at the nexus point of the most important word in the world today, and that is regeneration. That is the only option left for humanity, is to regenerate human community and the world. Thank you all so much. We'll see you tomorrow.
That Annapurna Devi, Ganesh Annapurna, is behind us. She has our blessing. She has her blessing to all our work. Thank you so much. See you again on April 21. But even before that, we are a big family. We are member of your family.
Oh, you're all welcome to Humanity Rising. Bye-bye.